Hello and welcome to the Art Hitman. I'm Perry Mechanics and today I'm going to show you how to draw Deadshot. Alright, let's begin with Deadshot. And for this drawing we're going to come down almost about half the page and then divide the page in half. Please help me reach 50 likes and 10 comments for this video. Once we have our lines established on the page, let's go ahead and start with the oval shape for his head, right in the center. Once we've established that, immediately put an oval in for his neck, right underneath where the oval for his head was. Now let's go ahead and measure top of his head to his chin, and our index finger and thumb mark where our chest is going to be, and then where his waist is going to be. Alright, now once we've done that, we can go ahead and put his oval shape in for his torso. So let's go ahead and get that established. Lightly put that in with your pencil. A nice solid oval that fits both the top and bottom where his waist and his chest is. Go ahead and put your line in for where his chest is going to be. And right after that, we're going to establish a 3/4 view because he's going to be slightly standing sideways. So we're going to have a line that comes off center. Notice this is the center line, and this is where I'll be teaching you this difference between the front and the side. So we're going to have off the center line a curve that comes around like this to his waist. This line you see right here establishes the 3/4 view. After that, we're going to go ahead and put his line in for his shoulder, just like this. Now once we establish this shoulder line, we can go ahead and put his left arm in. So go ahead and put a circle in for his left arm, which is going to completely go off the page. So let's have a line that comes from the center, about where his waist is, on top of his rib cage, and then have his arm go off the page. Alright, we're going to follow where the center line is here. Now you're not going to see the same amount of the shoulder here as you would on the other side because he's standing sideways. So let's go ahead and put a half circle here. And you can let the circle go underneath this part of the oval, and I'll explain why in a second. Then for this part, you can have his arm, which is hidden behind his back. Measure it to this where this elbow is, right here. Because in this drawing, Deadshot's going to be holding a gun. So we're gonna have his arm come up, and then right where his, let's say where his shoulder is, the middle of his shoulder, his hand is gonna be here. So you can put a square in for his hand shape here. And then thumb shape right here. And then for his waist, we can go ahead and then put a square in for his waist and have that go off the page. Now, we're going to go ahead and begin to start drawing his face. So I'm going to zoom in. Now his face is still going to be forward. So we're going to sketch his face in. And in this case, Deadshot is wearing a mask, so we don't have to worry too much about features and things like that. But I will show you how to draw his mask and what he's wearing. Let's go ahead and put the lines in for his neck muscles. Now, for his face, we're going to begin with his the scope on his eye. And we're going to put, as I usually do, temple lines in on the side of his head. And the reason for that is we don't have the scope going off the edge of the side of his face because he has the side of his head there. So let me go ahead and draw that in so I can explain more clearly what's going on. So put in a circle right here. Okay, and that's going to be on the left side of his head. Lightly put in a line that extends from off that circle to off the side of his face. Notice I have this shape here that goes off the edge of the side of his face. Temple line breaks that up between this and the circle in the center. Okay, now he has another mechanism that wraps around the side of his head. He's going to put a simple definition of a shape here, which is a line that goes through here and out the other side and the side of his head. Okay, now I'm going to switch pencils for detail for the sake of his face and then that way I can get a little more detail going without the tip making it a little bit harder to see. Now, when you're doing a circle within a circle, you could put another plus sign here, and notice how these two lines help you indicate where the other side of the circle should be. And it's like drawing within a pie. If you notice, there's almost like a plus in the middle here. That way you know how far to go to the out to the edge of the scope. Once you completed that, you can put these darker lines in inside the eye where this scope is going to be. Right here. Drop these little dots in here. These are the indication of his eye having a scope to it. It's kind of cool. Right there. Okay, so that's done. Now, we're going to come right over across here to his other eye. We're going to go ahead and put a slant in and a frown. Have the eye come in on a slant, come up and go off where the temple line is here that we have drawn. Right underneath that, we're going to put his eye in. And go straight up. Okay? Immediately after that, he has an indication of a nose here. And he's going to come around to the other side and then stop. And then off the top of the scope, he has a frown that comes there. So you'll put a curve just over top of that. And then we can go ahead and put the temple line in on his right side. And then for his head, we could define that. Have this come around to the other side. And close the top of his head. And then come down. There's nothing on the side of his head here, so just continue that straight down. And do the same thing for the right side. We're going to close the top part of his mask up and then close the chin. Okay, now the mask is divided in half. There's a line here, so we're gonna go ahead and darken that in. Come down, and then let me see here. Clean this center line up really quick. So that way I'm not confusing anyone as we're doing a drawing. Have the line come straight down like this. Right off the edge of his eye, we're gonna come around and we're gonna put a cheek, defining his cheek in, because as he's wearing a mask, there is detail to what his face could be like underneath. So we're gonna come around, do this angle, put a line here, a line out to the edge, and then just come around to the bottom and look off the page. Okay, and for the right side, come right underneath the scope, come around, and go off the edge of the page. And then there's gonna be an angle underneath the mask where his nose is, indicating that there's a nose there. So you can drop that in as well. And it's an upside down triangle shape. All right, we move right along. He has breathing holes in his mask, so what we're gonna do is put 6 holes in. We're gonna put one on the right, I'm sorry, on the left, one on the right, one on the left again, one on the right, and then one more at the bottom, just like that. And just for the sake of being even, move this one over. All right. Now we have his head established. Let's go ahead and move on to his neck. Have that come around, lightly put this in, and then underneath here, where his chest is going to be, this is going to extend over just a little bit because he is standing in a 3/4 view. Okay, so for his neck, let's go ahead and bring his shoulders in. Lightly put his shoulders in because he does have apparel he's wearing. And we don't want to go too dark because then it'd be hard to put the rest of what he's wearing in. Come down to his shoulder right here. And notice this shoulder is going to be shorter than this one because we're seeing more of this one than this one. Okay. Now, his neck has metallic rivets on it. So we're going to bring a line around like this as lightly as possible. Come around to the other side and then stop. We're going to put another line in here just like this. Go dark. Then by that I mean I just apply a little pressure and then have another line come in like this and go around the other side. All right, now we're gonna move down to his chest. Now his chest is gonna be right here. And of course, like I said, it's gonna be off center because it's 3/4. Then come over and then do the same thing for his right side. Lightly put that in. Have a line that continues down like this. And then we're going to do the outer part of his chest, which is going to come around and come underneath just like this. And we're not going to do the center of his chest. And come over. Now come up this way. Then have a line that comes in over to where his left shoulder is, right to the center here. We see this line drawn here. And we're gonna come off the shoulder and come around and come in and meet that point right here. Then he has another line that comes in and down to this point, and from off the top of the shoulder, we're gonna bring that in and bring that around just like this. Now, from this line in between his chest muscle and his shoulder muscle, we have a line that comes in for his bicep. We're gonna let that come down and come in right here, just above where this circle is drawn for his elbow. And for the outside, we're gonna come in and repeat the same thing and come down. And then he has a muscle that comes in and around like this. This is where his elbow is gonna come in. Stop it here is a muscle that comes here and come around. So I came down, let me slow down. Elbow here comes in. This line comes in here, bring that around, curve it, bring that here. Now the very bottom of his arm is gonna come right where the elbow is and then go down. Let that go off the page. And then there's the arm, that part of his arm that comes in around like this. It's gonna go straight down. Now for the center, there's a center line muscle, and this is the bicep and tricep. So you'll have a center line come in, over, and come down, and just meet this line here, just like this. All right, so when it come in, bring his rib cage in, just like this. So that continues this oval shape here. And then there's a line that comes in here for the oblique, that's like his waist. Now we're gonna go back to the front side. So let's match this up, and I'm gonna lightly put an indication here because he has an emblem that goes on his chest here. So I'm not gonna put too much detail in on this part. Come in and around, and then come down just like this, and then match one side of his waist to the other, just like this. All right, now we're gonna do the right arm. The right arm is concealed, most of it with the gun, so we're gonna put a shoulder in, just like this. And we're not gonna see the rest of this, so what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put a wrist in, right? So put a circle here, and then put this part of his wrist in, which is gonna be lightly put in so we know exactly where everything is in place. Then do this part of his arm and let that go underneath his body, just like this. Okay. Now, we're gonna go ahead and put the shoulder parts of what he's wearing on his piece here, but we're gonna put a circle in the center so we know where that is. So have a circle that is covering from here to here. Lightly put that in. If you notice, I sketched it in very light. Okay. Then we have out of that, he's wearing, it's kind of like shoulder bone guards that come up like this over his shoulder. As one line, and do the next line just like this off the edge. And then we're gonna close it at the top. Okay, let that line come around and put a little edge on it. And repeat the same thing for his right side. So his right side's gonna come up and do the same thing. And make sure that because it's 3/4, it matches from right to left. So you wanna have that same feel of this arc coming around to this side. But now notice, because you're seeing more of his left side than his right, this side is gonna be condensed a little bit. So we just have that come in and bring that around just like this. And bring that line in. Now, we're gonna deal with the centerpiece on his chest. And the only thing we're doing is adding a border just like this on his chest. And then there's another line that comes in like this. And the same thing that we did up here with his eye, the scope in his eye, we're gonna put the same kind of scope sign in his chest. We'll line a little here, indicated here, here, and then here. And you put a little circle in the middle for the scope. And that is done, okay? Now, what he's wearing for this part is almost like a halter top. So it cuts off basically where the centerpiece on his chest is. So we're gonna put a line there, continue it to this side, and go all the way over to where his rib cage is. Now that's gonna bring us to the waist portion of Deadshot. So we're gonna have a line come, but this is what'll help us out. We're gonna put this on an angle and have this line for his abs come in, go down, and just go right off the bottom here. And then from here, which is like the part of his chest line, we're gonna bring a line that comes in and comes around just like that. follow what the lines I'm doing. Is a curtain line here, come in and over. Now we're gonna come in a little bit and repeat the same line here, here, drop it down, and then here. And as you see, it don't match quite well. So what I'm gonna do is correct that, and then I'm gonna match this side more. And sometimes that'll happen. So let's take a look. Come down a little bit more, over, and then it'll match a little bit more. All right, and I'm gonna do the same thing for the outside. Come in a little bit, over, and then down for its waist. All right, so now where we need to be. And we have one more on the outside that comes from here, and just come around like that. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and put his belt in, or his weapon holster, if you will, where he has his guns and what the belt that holds the holster on it and all of that. So this is the center line. Now remember, we changed it. We went from front to side, so that's going to continue. So we're going to have a front of his belt go here, and you notice it continues right where the center line is here. If I can take my pencil and show you, follow that. That's where the front of the belt is going to be for his holster. Now for the side, we're just going to put a simple box in and go off the bottom of the page here and off of his waist, just like that. Bring a pouch in over, and then go over like that. He has a nice size pouch on his waist. You know, has nice size bullets, I suppose, for the gun we're about to put in a little while. Repeat the same thing on the right. And then the way you can match it, let's put our pencil in here. You notice this is a bit higher over here, so let's go ahead on and lower that and bring it right in here. See that? And let that go off the page as well. And then you can put a little indication that the pouch is closed on this side. Okay. So again, very simple, not a lot of detail here. Everything's sketched in. We got his left arm done. Okay, we're doing a point check at this point. Now he does have an additional kind of detail that comes from here, and it goes up around his shoulder. We're gonna bring that around about here. Now where the halter top stops, where at the bottom of his chest is, he has on his arm as well. So we're gonna drop that in so we can have that out of the way. And don't forget later, that's all it is. So we know ahead of time, we don't go back and look and say, oh, I did this drawing, then this part of it wasn't done. Okay, now we're gonna deal with his right arm. Now for his right arm, we're pretty much gonna deal with his hand. So I'm gonna zoom in so we can draw his hand in. And we're gonna start with the pinky. The pinky is gonna be here. And put the circles in so you see what I'm doing. 2, 3. And then of course his forefinger is up on a trigger. Okay, so within this box, what you want to do is you want to establish where things are in relation to everything else. So I'm going to put his pinky in first, because the pinky is easiest to go off of, because that way we can establish the bottom of the gun. If you notice off this circle for the pinky, I'm going to put the base of the gun in right there. It's already in. And that way it's an easier job after that. Then you got the ring finger. It's going to come around and it's going to be a little lower. I'm going to squeeze that guy in right here. And then for the middle finger, we're going to come up, and it's of course going to be a bit bigger, but not too much. Just like this. Now it's a little measuring required here, because right here where we have the palm of his thumb is, we're going to put a circle there so we can measure where that thumb is supposed to wrap around the trigger. Or, I'm sorry, wrap around the handle of the gun. So where we have this lined up for his index finger is where his thumb is going to be. We'll go ahead and pop the edge of his thumb in right there, as you can see. Okay, out of that, we can then form the handle for the gun. You see that? Line curves in, over, and off. And then let's go ahead and clean this edge up, because we moved this over. Now where the pinky is, we're gonna put the palm in. We're gonna drop the palm of his hand in. We know exactly where everything is now. And then he of course has gloves on, so we're gonna put a line here, and we're gonna bring this around just like this and come over. This is the indication of his gloves over his wrist here. So we lightly got this sketched in. So now 1, 2, 3, the forefinger on the trigger here. And we're gonna go ahead and then bring this in just like this. And then he's not firing the trigger, so it's just going to be in the middle, just like this. And his finger's going to be resting on it. And bring that back for the rest of his finger. Okay. Now we're going to put the handle, detail the handle in. So the handle, you're going to bring another line in off of the edge, just like this, go up, and then bring that around to where his thumb is, and put like a little circle there. Go back down to his arm. We're going to come in. Stop it about here because the gun actually extends behind his hand here. We want to have it go over his shoulder just like this and go up. It's resting in between his arm, where his armpit is, and his chest. And then we're going to have this part of it come over, come down. And we're going to have this part come all the way around, and it's going to cover up a portion of where the rest of his forearm is going to be, right there. And let that go underneath his rib cage. Okay, and put the other back side of it here. And this has rivets in it, so we can put one line here, 2, 3, 4, and the rest you don't see. Now, I'm gonna come back up, and at this point, we're gonna sketch in where we want the rest of the gun to be. So we're gonna have it come up like this, and the top part of it has a lot of components to it. So we have a line that comes in over like this, and then another one that has a chamber. We're gonna make an oval here, and then come back up to the other side. This part's gonna come up and go over. Then he has a clip that goes here. And then we're gonna bring the top of the gun out just like this, with a scope on the end of it. And now the scope is the most important part. It has a silencer on the front. And then there's another piece that comes down like this. It's a neck of it. Okay. And what I did was use the oval here and the oval here. And then this part's gonna go back into the larger part of the gun. Okay. Now there's the piece that comes out here and drops down a little bit. Now this part is going to come down on the angle. It has another piece that comes up like this and over. And this part of it right here is going to have a circle here. And now this is going to be this piece that comes here. And of course this right here is the clip. So we're going to bring the bottom of the clip in like this and then go up. Have this come around and put 2 lines in here. All right. Now at the top of the gun, we have an extension that comes out and goes back and then comes down like this. And a bunch of these are a bunch of shapes that pretty much drop down from the top of the gun to the bottom. And then of course there's a scope that comes out of the top. So we're gonna bring up a little neck just like this. And then put a center piece here for the scope. And then what we're going to do is have an oval shape here, right? And then it's going to be a flat, it's kind of circle shape here for the front of that. And wrap that around just like this. And off the back of it is just a little indicator here. And then of course off the top, a little piece that wraps around like this. A line over, down, and then back. All right, it's looking good. Now, what we're gonna do is gonna put in the rest of these lines I mentioned earlier. They're kind of like laced metal, kind of like Colossus from the X-Men. So we're gonna have a line that comes over like this, and like this, and one more down at the bottom. Repeat the same thing on the right side. And this is a pattern that goes over certain parts of Deadshot's body. For instance, now we're gonna move over to his arm, his right arm. Of course, there's a muscle that comes around like this, but we're not gonna see that because the gun covers it. We're gonna have a simple line that goes over. Like this, like this, like this, like this, and then we're going to take it all the way off the bottom of his arm here. And it also has an arm kind of like Bucky from Captain America as well. Same thing for his right arm. We're gonna have a line that goes straight across like this, this, and like this. And we're gonna have it come over and kind of go on a slant here because the arm is almost on a slant. And lightly put this off until you get to the bottom. Same thing for his waist area. The line is going to extend from one side of the body all the way to the other, just like this. So take your pencil and go across and just make sure you practice going straight across like this. And this actually helps you control your pencil line. If you notice, I'm just kind of going over the same line as lightly as possible, but I'm not going too heavy, because if I go off course, at least it won't be to the point where it looks like a bunch of lines instead of one line. All right, so what I'm going to do at this point, if you're drawing up with me from the beginning up to this point that we are now, you just drawn Deadshot from start to finish. Now what I'm going to do is go in and clean up, make it look all neat, erase everything, and then you can take a look at it at the end of the video.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe by clicking this round button at the bottom. Also, click one of the 2 videos at the top. Please like this video, tell a friend, and share it on Facebook. Thank you.
The Art Hitman.